Hello, I'm Dr. Eleni Meletiadou, and today I will present my study on peer assessment of writing, which is a powerful formative assessment tool for improved student learning. So, in the last few decades, there has been a shift from a testing to an assessment culture, that is, from assessment of learning to assessment for learning. Peer assessment as an alternative form of assessment for learning, which promotes learner-centered assessment, has drawn a lot of attention lately all over the world. Basically, it's an educational arrangement where students judge a peer's performance either by providing marks and or feedback. So it emphasizes the relationship between teaching, learning, and assessment. Peer assessment is based on six different theories, as you can see here: the process writing theory, social cognitive theory, collaborative learning theory, interaction and SLA theory, cognitive constructivist, and self-regulation theory. So six cognitive and psycholinguistic theories support peer assessment and its use in the educational classrooms. So there has been a lot of research related to peer assessment, and researchers have described a number of benefits. Cognitive, first of all, because students are able to take an active role in learning by exercising critical thinking. Social, as it enhances communicative power and students are able to receive authentic feedback. Linguistic, as students can explore and enhance their linguistic and meta-linguistic knowledge. And practical, since peer assessment is applicable across various proficiency levels. However, there are challenges. For example, sometimes it causes some sort of uncertainty in terms of how students perceive peer comments, and some students really do not invest time and effort in them, but that all depends on the kind of training that students receive before the implementation. There are also social challenges, so discomfort, uneasiness, or lack of security in negotiating meaning, or sometimes students provide comments that are overly critical, and this causes some kind of disappointment. Moreover, there are linguistic challenges. Sometimes students focus too much on the surface rather than on meaning, and sometimes they lack the background knowledge to be experts. That is why they need training. There are also practical issues such as time constraints or lack of student preparation. So there has been a lot of research related to peer assessment. A lot of studies underscore its value and its role in improving the effectiveness and quality of learning. However, there are several conflicting issues that need to be investigated, such as the use of peer assessment with young learners, the effect of peer assessment on students' writing, performance, and students' and teachers' attitude towards peer assessment. So the context of the study: educational authorities expressed their concern for EFL students' poor writing performance in formal tests. So in Cyprus, more specifically, where I conducted this research, the curricula encouraged the use of alternative methods of assessment. However, peer assessment was not actually employed. It is often associated with vague language, and it's not consistently applied or understood instructionally in working with high school students. Educational authorities need to promote peer assessment to foster reflective thinking and independent learning. So, further research needs to be done in terms of how we can explore the degree to which the use of peer assessment can improve adolescent learners' performance and motivation, and investigate into the effects of peer assessment on learning, which is often characterized by low validity. So what we used is a multiple method approach. This study had features of an explorative study, an interaction study, as well as a descriptive case study. We used a semi-experimental intact comparison group design, and to maximize the validity of the findings, the data collection process involved data triangulation as well. These were the the research questions. So we try to explore the kind of impact that peer assessment when used together with the teacher assessment, because we don't want really students to replace teachers, how it can have an impact on EFL students' writing performance as opposed to teacher assessment only. So basically we believe that teacher assessment should be complemented with peer assessment. Then the second question explore in terms of the second question, we explored the nature of the impact on EFL students' writing quality, and we also explored students' attitude as well as teachers' perception towards peer assessment. So basically, we explored everyone's attitudes and also whether we really had some kind of improvement in terms of students' writing performance. So this was the research design of the study. We had 10 control groups which received only teacher feedback and 10 experimental groups which received both teacher and peer feedback. We had 20 teachers, 200 Greek Cypriot intermediate adolescent EFL students. They all attended state language schools. This study lasted one whole year, and all students used an essay as a pre and post test, and 3 essays in between. For all three essays, students had to produce 2 drafts. The peer assessment procedure was blind. We didn't want students, to feel some kind of enmity, and the training was provided in peer assessment methods, both to teachers and students. So this was the cyclic scheme that we used. First of all, we had teacher training, teachers, then trained their students, they negotiated the assessment criteria with them, they implemented the peer assessment procedure, they evaluated, and then of course we improved and modified some aspects of peer assessment depending on the feedback we received. So the instruments, we used 4 EFL rubrics, 4 peer assessment forms, depending on the kind of depending on the genre that students had to write. Then there was a student's peer assessment questionnaire, a teacher's peer assessment questionnaire, focus group discussions. So we used the focus group semi-structured discussion form, and of course we also have a semi-structured interview form for the teachers. This was the peer assessment form. As you can see, students had statements in each one of the different categories: content, organization, vocabulary and language use, mechanics and focus. These, of course, were the assessment criteria that the Ministry of Education really asked us to mark our students' essays against. And then students had to have a look at their classmates' essays and tick in the appropriate box. For example, A, B, C, D, or E. Students were also invited to provide open-ended comments on the essay strengths and weaknesses, and suggest and provide recommendations for revisions. So these were the data of the study. We had a lot of essays, questionnaires, 1,300 essays, 200 students questionnaires, and 30 whole class discussions. A lot data to analyze. Of course, we applied for permission for the study, and this was obtained by the Pedagogical Institute. Participation in the study was voluntary. A letter was sent to students and their parents, and of course, we ensured students and teachers anonymity. Also, participants retained their right to withdraw. Thank God they didn't withdraw from the study. These are the research questions, the instruments we use, and the types of analysis we conducted. Basically, we used both quantitative and qualitative analysis, depending on the kind of of a question we responded to. So, for example, to explore the impact of peer assessment and peer assessment on students' writing performance, we compared marks from pre and post tests. To explore the impact of peer assessment and teacher assessment on students' writing quality, we had writing quality indicators: accuracy, fluency, grammatical complexity, and lexical complexity. So we did some text analysis. We compared also pre and post survey questionnaires, and we did content analysis in students' responses to the focus group discussions. We applied the same procedure to the teacher surveys and interviews. So the analysis of the study. As I said, we did PERTI tests to detect improvement in students' performance, independent samples test to find statistically significant differences between experimental and control groups, one-way MANOVA tests between subjects, a lot of different types of analysis. And then let's have a look at the summaries of the findings in terms of writing performance. So students improved their writing performance by 3 marks out of 20. And in terms of the analytic scores, half a mark out of 4. So basically, we found out that students' writing performance improved. It was not affected by gender, but students who, but low achieving students were the ones that received more benefits. So peer assessment was more beneficial for low achievers. Peer assessment helps students get new ideas, organize their essays better, correct their grammatical and spelling mistakes, and improve their understanding of the different genres. So a summary of the findings indicates that peer assessment and teacher assessment had a moderately positive impact on students' writing performance. It had a statistically significant effect on students' writing performance regarding lexical complexity and all indicators of accuracy. However, only some aspects of grammatical complexity and some aspects of fluency. Also, peer assessment did not have a significant impact on one aspect of students' grammatical complexity and some aspects of fluency. In terms of students' attitude towards peer assessment, again, findings were moderately positive. Students had a positive perception of the impact of peer assessment on their learning because it promoted learner autonomy. It had a positive impact on students' cognitive development and also affective enjoyment of learning. In terms of teachers' attitude towards peer assessment, they felt that peer assessment should be more extensively used and from a younger age in schools, and they favored peer assessment and regarded it as a valuable learning aid. Of course, there are limitations since we only explored the impact of peer assessment on essays and only on a specific age group. So we really want to see more studies exploring the impact of peer assessment on different age groups and maybe use more training. So the research implications and recommendations of this study. Researchers may adopt and examine the framework that was used in this particular study and use it in their own context. Of course, they need to adapt that. Also, this study informs future researchers regarding the constraints in conducting research in peer assessment and formative assessment in general. That is, they need to use blind peer assessment and also to train both teachers and students extensively. So the recommendation is that peer assessment can serve but as a supplement to expert feedback, not replace it. Also, we need to develop students' skills in peer assessment. This should be a systematic effort. Also, we need peer assessment deserves very thoughtful planning and implementation. It has to become an integral part of the teaching program if we want it to be effective. Please bear in mind that peer assessment lends support to establishing communities of writing practice, which really improves students' motivation towards writing. Learners also are better prepared for continuous language learning from a lifelong perspective, and also peer assessment encourages the involvement of students in the development of the assessment criteria, and definitely it should be anonymous. Moreover, careful training and guidance is needed throughout the implementation. So, teachers' assessment practices are largely incongruent with recommended best practice. So, we need to address teachers' assessment illiteracy by developing an assessment literacy development strategy, which would rely on formal language teacher assessment courses, attendance of workshops, training courses which need to involve teachers in collaborative assessment projects, and of course contributions to minor academic journals and the production of assessment training booklets. So a framework of implementing peer assessment in secondary education needs to be present to contribute in its way to the overall picture of research on peer assessment. Peer assessment can be used as an informal classroom-based assessment method to improve the EFL learners' writing skills. Important guidelines and suggestions for training teachers and adolescents should be provided in secondary education, and of course we need to effectively monitor the educational policy implementation, and we should provide training for all teachers, both pre-service and in-service teachers. So the results of the study may contribute to teacher training agencies for improving their educational programs, textbook writers for suggesting more effective methodology, teachers who may consider employing peer assessment in their classrooms, and the study can also contribute a teacher's voice, which so far has been absent. So basically the current study has various implications in terms of the involvement of students through peer assessment in the process of assessment, which may enhance their learning opportunity. However, I would suggest that other studies could explore how peer assessment can affect, can have an impact on other skills, for example, speaking, or to conduct observational studies to study the effects of peer assessment and how various situational variables may influence peer assessment. So peer assessment is basically a global trend, but change is needed so that the benefits of assessment practice could raise students' achievement profile and motivation. Teachers should also learn from their teaching experience, question the educational values, evaluate their own practice, and develop their autonomy. Assessment literacy must be a pivotal content area for current and future staff development and endeavors. And let's please keep in mind that assessment is the tail that wags the linguistic dog. So thank you for your attention. Please contact me if you have any questions to ask me. I will be happy to provide answers. Thank you.